An unprecedented suspension of the European Union's 20-year freedom of movement agreement could be agreed by EU ministers who are meeting now in Amsterdam as the open border Schengen zone faces its toughest ever test.
Schengen est en danger.
We have no more than 2 months to get things under control.
Mais nous vivons avec ça, avec ces défis et avec ce sentiment, encore une fois, que l'histoire peut être tragique et que l'Europe peut se disloquer dans les mois qui viennent.
If Schengen is only a fair weather system, then it cannot continue.
It would be a devastating loss, so to speak. Of course, if Schengen doesn't work.
Do you actually think, can't resist it, that the refugee crisis is sort of make or break for the survival of the whole Schengen area?
You know, again, I speak personally, not as MD of the IMF, but yes, I think so.
Well, these are the latest pictures we've got for you from Amsterdam, where EU officials are now arriving for today's talks, which are going to be held at the National Maritime Museum in Amsterdam. They'll be considering reinstating border controls for a 2-year period, and if they do that, it will be seen as undermining what's considered one of the EU's greatest achievements. Here's our Europe correspondent, Peter Oliver.
If Europe was a stick of rock, basically freedom of movement is written right through the centre of it. It's imperative. Freedom of movement is one of the most basic principles of the European Union. What we're looking at right now is we may see the reintroduction of those border checks. The last time this was debated, we didn't see anything too committal from the ministers that were present.
We agreed to keep to minimum and return to normal as soon as possible.
But of course, we are going to monitoring the situation hour by hour, and if necessary, we will put on the carry liability into force.
I absolutely agree with my colleagues that we must look very carefully how this situation is going on.
Well, this meeting is taking place in Amsterdam, and the location is quite significant because Mark Rutte, the Dutch Prime Minister, has said time and time again that he is very concerned about the border situation in Europe, particularly the external borders. He wants to see what has been referred to as a steel ring placed around the external borders of Europe. We're going to have to wait and see what comes out later on, though, if this 2-year suspension of the Schengen Agreement comes in place as interior ministers meet in the Netherlands.
As we've mentioned, the Schengen zone's been put under immense strain by more than 1 million migrants who've fled war and conflict in the Middle East and Africa.
The moral human thing is to make clear, please don't come.
Last autumn, 6 member states reintroduced border checks to stem the influx of refugees, and the EU was forced to expand its security agency, Frontex, which struggled to control the bloc's external frontiers.
When a country faces a sudden and exceptional influx of illegal immigration, they can call on Frontex for extra technical and operational assistance for a limited period. This comes in the form of RAPIDs, rapid border intervention teams that are made up of border guards from other EU countries.
They deploy 1,500 staff. In the future, this will be far too little to protect 9,000 kilometers of land border and almost 50,000 kilometers of sea border around the European Union. Of course, tasks have grown dramatically with the destabilization of the Middle East, in which, of course, the Western intervention policies also play a great role. Frontex can always deal only with the symptoms of the refugee crisis, and it will never be really successful in the way as we and the European citizens would wish, as long as the conflicts are held broiling and active in the region.